Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day today. Thank you so much for coming to my presentation. So we'll just jump right into it. So today, I'm going to be discussing why you should be uniting your ASO and ASA strategy. So I'm going to be going over why this is important, and why there's some different methodologies, strategies that you can incorporate. So let's take a look at a real life example. So for March Madness, there are only really two apps that you can leverage to stream games without needing to connect a cable subscription. And this is Paramount Plus and Max. As you can see in the article highlighted, both of these apps received a lot of national coverage because of this. Yet, on the first day of March Madness, Max was outranking Paramount Plus for pretty much every high volume, relevant, March Madness related generic and competitor term. But why was this? Well, in the chart above, we can see that Max started to rank for March Madness Live right after a version update in early March. And this is pretty much the case for every relevant March Madness related keyword. Now, if you don't know, if you need to make a metadata update on iOS, it needs to go live with a version update. So I would bet a lot of money that Max targeted March Madness within this keyword field during this version update. But what's important here is not that they targeted March Madness, it's when they targeted March Madness. They did it in early March while the volume was low, so they could start building relevancy for the term while the competition was low. This ensures that by the time March Madness hit its peak volume, Max was ranking as high as they possibly could for this term. And this is critical because how much you bid on a term in part is determined by how relevant Apple thinks you are for that term, which in part is determined by your organic rankings. Now, your organic rankings will be determined by your conversion rate and velocity of downloads for a keyword. And so what's one quick way you can increase your velocity of downloads? An Apple Search Ads campaign. And what's one way you can increase your conversion rate? A custom product page. And we can see in the image to the left, Max does both. They implement a March Madness focused Apple Search Ads campaign and a corresponding custom product page to go along with it. Now, in the image to the right, we can see that they implement an in-app event to further maximize their visibility within the App Store. Now, if you look at all these adjustments on their own, they seem like simple and obvious adjustments. But when you take a look at the bigger picture, you can see that there was a coordinated effort to synergize their ASA and ASO campaigns. And this had a huge impact for them on the first day of March Madness, especially when it came to visibility for March Madness related terms when compared to a direct competitor. So if you don't know, the seasonality battles won early. But to implement a successful seasonal campaign, you need the right data. So just bear with me for a second, and then here are where the plugs come in. We're AppTweak, we're the industry's most comprehensive platform. All the data you saw and all the data you will see was pulled directly from AppTweak. So not only can you manage your ASA and ASO campaigns, you can manage and reply to reviews, you can report on marketing initiatives, you can conduct market research, and a lot more. So we're trusted by over 2,000 mobile leaders. We work with indie publishers all the way up to enterprise level clients. Once again, my name is Anthony Ascension, and I'm an app growth consultant at AppTweak, and I have 10 years of digital and mobile marketing experience, and I love apps, food, and sports. Now, it's because of my love of apps and sports that I wanted to share with you today the methodology that I would leverage if I was creating an ASO and ASA campaign for the new sports streaming app by Disney, Warner Bros., and Fox. And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you today. So we'll go over keyword and creative research, review optimization, and in-app events. Now, before we jump in to the actual strategies, let's discuss the synergies between ASA and ASO. So as I highlighted earlier, our organic rankings are determined by velocity of downloads and conversion rate. And how much you bid on a term, in part, will be determined by how relevant Apple thinks you are for that term, which in part will be determined by your organic rankings. So you target a keyword within your metadata, your relevancy, your organic rankings rise, how much you have to bid on that term lowers, and now you're maximizing the amount of downloads you can get for your ad spend. And then when your ASA campaign goes live, you're going to increase your velocity of downloads. And if you implement a custom product page, you can increase your conversion rate. This is because instead of a user searching a term and seeing an ad that highlights our default product page screenshots, which are optimized to resonate with as many users as possible, they're going to see our custom product page screenshots, which are optimized specifically for the keyword they're searching. So it creates a more consistent journey from what the user searches to what they see, which will hopefully increase our conversion rate, which will further increase our relevancy in our organic rankings. Now, how much we have to bid on that term lowers even more, and now we're getting more downloads, even more downloads for the same ad spend. So for every component of the strategy I'm going to review with you today, I'm just going to let you know where it falls in with the mobile marketing funnel, just so we can keep things in perspective. I've included an image of that here if you're not familiar with the mobile marketing funnel. And if anyone needs the presentation, just reach out to us after the call, after the meeting today, and we can send you a copy of that. So let's go over metadata. Why is metadata important? Why are keywords important? Now, we all know that the keywords we target within our metadata will have a direct impact on the visibility for those terms. But the app stores are becoming competitive, especially for streaming services. So how and where we frame our metadata can impact our conversion rate. And then when we implement our metadata can impact the success of our seasonal campaigns. So it is critical that we implement a more nuanced approach to our metadata strategies. So let's take a look at another example of this. We can see that after February 18th, right after the Super Bowl, CBS removes NFL from the subtitle because NFL season is over, and they replace it with March Madness. And we can see right after they target March Madness, they go from ranking number 8 to ranking number 3. And they pretty much maintain those rankings all the way up into the first day of March Madness. Now, if they would have waited until right before March Madness started to target this term, they may not have gained that top 3 ranking as quickly as they did because the competition would have been so much higher. So I'll repeat it one more time. The seasonality battles won early. Now, the seasonality and metadata strategies that we implement are going to take a lot of time and energy. So we have to make sure that the keywords we are targeting are worth those resources. So let's just go over some metrics we're going to use when doing our keyword research. Volume, that's just a score given by Apple search ads that lets you know how popular a term is. Maximum reach is an app tweak metric that estimates how many impressions you're going to get if you rank number 1 for a term over a 30-day period. Live search results. The live search results, it's always good to look at them to understand how relevant a keyword is to our app, because remember, relevancy is going to impact both our ASA and ASO. Now, having to look at the live search results for every potential keyword can be a very monotonous process. And I know I've done that plenty of times before, but at AppTweak, we came up with a relevancy score. And this assigns a score to a keyword based on how relevant it is to your app. So you can use this relevancy score to help you automate that process. Ranking, always good to understand where you rank for a keyword before you decide to target it or not. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to want to create a keyword list, and we're going to want to call our semantic dictionary. We're going to want to add any potential keyword that we're going to want to rank for to this list. And then we can refer back to this list when we do our reporting, when we do our metadata updates, when we do our ASA updates. So it's a list we can continually refer back to. But here's the critical part. When we're doing our keyword research, we're going to want to start segmenting our keywords into different groups. So we're going to want to have keyword groups for NFL, March Madness, NBA, baseball, and so on. And the reason we're going to want to do these segmentations is because it is going to help us with the ASA and seasonality research that we do later. So now our sports streaming app is going to be inherently very seasonal. This is because of all the various sports seasons that happen throughout the year. Now, on top of that, things are going to change from year to year. We have the Olympics this year. We had the World Cup a few years ago. On top of that, we're going to have various seasonal events within the same season. We're going to have the regular season, the All-Star games, the playoffs, championship. So it is critical that our seasonal strategy isn't based on when these seasons end. It's based on user behavior and understanding when the high volume relevant sports related terms they search for start to decrease or increase in volume. So for example, From mid-February to early April, we're probably going to want to target March Madness, but we also have the NBA regular season. And then we have the playoffs shortly after that. On top of that, we got baseball that just started in late March. So we're going to want to conduct market research to get the data to understand user behavior so we can implement the right adjustments at the right time to our metadata, ASA, and seasonality strategies. Now, I speak with a lot of teams whose paid and organic teams don't talk to each other, don't work together at all. And this is a huge missed opportunity. For example, our ASA team can leverage the seasonality research and keyword segmentations that we finalized during our keyword research phase to help them optimize their bidding and campaign strategy. They can also ask our ASA team to start targeting priority keywords within the metadata so we can start building relevancy for these terms as quickly as possible. That way, when we are ready to start bidding on these terms and when we're ready to start that ASA campaign, we're as relevant as we can be for these terms. And therefore, how much we have to bid on these terms are as low as possible. Our ASO team, on the other hand, let's just say we discover a high volume, relevant generic keyword that we want to increase the rankings for quickly. Maybe we want to impress our boss, we need to impress our client. We can have our ASA team start bidding on this keyword if they already have it. So it is very important that our ASO and ASA teams work together, because if we don't, we're not going to be as efficient as we can be. So we're going to waste resources and we're going to miss opportunities. So now I've gone over some of my ASO strategies and how those strategies can impact ASA and how ASA can impact ASO, but let's go over some specific recommendations and insights for Apple Search Ads. Now, at a high level, Apple Search Ads is actually pretty simple. It's really just understanding bids, keywords, and your budget. But how much should you bid on a keyword? To be quite frank, this is a question that we get all the time, and there's really no one right answer to it, right? It's going to depend on your app, your budget, your keyword. But one thing that can help us understand the answer to that question is understanding the auction mechanism within Apple Search Ads. So in theory, the highest bidder for a keyword will always pay one more penny than the second highest bid. But we know that Apple Search Ads takes relevancy into consideration. And remember, part of that relevancy is determined by organic rankings. So an app with a lower bid but a higher relevancy can win that auction. And this is just another example of why our ASO and ASA teams should be working together. So discovery campaigns. What are discovery campaigns? Well, these are campaigns that Apple selects and discovers keywords for us. So here's what we're going to want to do. If we see a keyword performing well, we're going to want to take that keyword, take it from our discovery campaign, remove it, and add it to our generic or competitor campaigns. And then we're going to want to add that same keyword to our negative keyword list. This is because we want our discovery campaign to continue doing its job. And this is discovering new keywords. If it sees a keyword performing well, it's going to want to spend more and more money on that keyword. And we want to make sure we keep our budgets low for a discovery campaign. One thing to keep in mind is that eventually Apple's discovery campaigns algorithm will become less and less productive. So we're going to have to feed it new keywords, and AppTweak has an Atlas AI which can help us with that keyword research. So for generic and competitor campaigns, we obviously want to have the biggest share of voice with the lowest ad spend. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to continually adjust our bidding strategy until we hit that sweet spot. So what we're going to want to do is incorporate a couple different rules to keep our automated bidding strategies in check. So here are a couple that we have leveraged in the past. To great success. Let's say we have a keyword and we have an impression share between 20 and 60%. Our conversion rate is high, but we haven't hit our max cost per tap bid yet. What we're going to want to do is set a rule to increase that bid. And then when that keyword hits an impression share above 80% and our cost per tap is a little too high, we're going to want to set a rule to decrease that bid. And then when that keyword hits the minimum impression share threshold, the rule we set to increase that bid will come into effect. And then each of our rules adjust our bidding strategy until we hit that sweet spot. Now, how much you should adjust your bid or increase your bid will really be dependent on your app but these are two rules that we have. These are two automated rules that we have used before to great success. Now, finally, let's go over brand defense campaigns. For brand defense campaigns, we really just want to make sure we're not cannibalizing our organic performance. So we're going to want to conduct a cannibalization and protection cost analysis. Now, if you don't know what that is, feel free to reach out to us after our presentation, and we can kind of go over that in more detail. But that whole analysis can be its own presentation. I just don't have time to cover it all. But essentially, what we're going to want to do is if we see there's a competitor that has a relevancy score above 80 and a share voice above 15 for our branded terms, we're going to want to set a rule to increase those bids for our branded terms. And if not, we're going to want to lower those bids. And remember, relevancy score is a score by AppTweak that assigns a score based on how relevant a keyword is to our app. But we can also use it to see how relevant our branded terms are to our competitors. And this can help us decide if we need to implement a brand defense campaign or not. Okay, so we've gone over how we're going to increase our visibility within the App Store through ASA and ASO, but how are we going to convert those users? Well, let's discuss creative optimization. So why are creatives important? Well, you can rank number one for all your priority terms, but guess what? Users don't make their download decision based on where you rank for a keyword. Ranking number one for a term only ensures that your app is going to show up before your competitor. Now, how and where you frame your metadata can impact your conversion rate, but on iOS, most of the downloads come from the search results, and your creatives are going to have the biggest impact on converting those users to download your app. So it is important that our creatives are not only attention grabbing, but they resonate with as many users as possible. So why is market research important? Well, from a metadata perspective, it makes sense to target keywords early so we can start building relevancy for those terms while the volume and competition is low. But from a creative perspective, we have to be a little more precise as far as when we implement our seasonality strategy. For example, in February, we probably want to add March Madness to our keyword field because we want to we're going to want to start to build relevancy for that term while the competition is extremely low. But from a creative perspective, it probably makes sense to highlight our coverage of the NBA All-Star game because that seasonal event will be a lot more popular than March Madness in mid-February. So if you remember metadata, we kind of want to start targeting our keywords very early. But for creatives, we really want to implement our seasonal change and seasonal strategies right before that volume starts to increase. So here's another example of this. We have CBS, and they really start to emphasize NFL within their screenshots in August. As you can see, they do this right before the volume and popularity for the NFL starts to increase. So what we can do is we can take this data, we can take the strategies that our competitors are implementing, and we can incorporate that into our own methodology and strategy. So I've highlighted a couple of times that our screenshots and creatives, they need to be attention grabbing and resonate with users. So here are just some high level insights that you can use for your screenshots. But why do our creatives need to be attention grabbing? Why do they need to resonate with users? Well, the reason I said before is on iOS, most of the downloads come from the search results, and we only have a quick amount of time to grab a user's attention. If we don't grab their attention, they'll move on to a competitor's app. But why is seasonality important? Well, for sports apps and a lot of apps in general, seasonality is important because users are more likely to convert so they don't miss their favorite seasonal events. So we're going to have to understand, really understand for our app, what players do we highlight? What teams, what sports, what channels do we want to highlight? What do we put in screenshots? 1, 2, 3, what imagery do we use? What value propositions do we highlight? And how do we frame them? And when do we want to frame them? So how are we going to figure all those? And so we have to figure that all out while we're finalizing our creatives. And how are we going to figure that out? Well, we're going to A/B test. So as I highlighted earlier, our sports streaming app is going to have a lot of value propositions and a lot of different creative strategies that we can implement. So we have to understand what's going to resonate with users. Do we emphasize players? Do we emphasize sports, teams, channels? On top of that, all of those hypotheses I just laid out can be applied to various sports seasons throughout the year. For example, in October, we have the NFL, we have the NBA, we have hockey, we have college football. We have all these seasons going on at once. So we're going to need to be continually A/B testing. We're going to want to test one element at a time, and we're going to want to have a clear hypothesis so we can ensure that the data we get is very actionable. Now, as I've said a couple of times already, our organic rankings will be determined by our velocity of downloads and conversion rate. But not all of us may have budget for an ASA campaign to increase our velocity of downloads and a conversion rate through a custom product page. So what's one way we can increase our conversion rate over an extended period of time? That's right, we can A/B test. And just like with our creative research, we're going to want to conduct market research for our A/B testing strategy. And AppTweak has a great timeline feature that allows you to spy on all your competitors' current and previous A/B tests on iOS and Google Play. So we can take this data, we can analyze it, and any insights that we pull from it, we can actually apply to our A/B testing strategy. Now, I've gone over custom product pages a couple times already, but for those who don't know, let's quickly go over what those are. So custom product pages allow us to adjust our preview video, promotional text, and screenshots for a specific segment of keywords. So if a user searches an MBA-related keyword, instead of seeing an ad that highlights our default product page screenshots, and remember, our default product page screenshots need to resonate with as many users as possible. So we're going to highlight different sports, different players, different teams. But instead, when they search an MBA-related term, they're going to see our our custom product page that highlights MBA-related imagery. So it creates a more consistent journey from what the user searches to what they see, which will have a much bigger impact on conversion rate. On top of that, we can take that to the next level. We can actually optimize our campaigns by city, if there's enough traffic. So when a user searches an MBA-related keyword in the Bay Area, they see a custom product page that highlights the greatest point guard of all time, Steph Curry. Now, all joking aside, we really want to make sure that the custom product pages we leverage for our campaigns have enough high-volume, relevant keywords to justify those resources, right? It takes a lot of time to create custom product pages. It takes a lot of resources to create variants of our default product page screenshots. Luckily, we already finalized our keyword segmentations during our keyword research phase. And we also already identified seasonal opportunities during our seasonal research phase. So now our team knows what campaigns need custom product pages because they have enough high volume keywords to justify the resources to create them. But they also know when those campaigns should go live so they have the biggest impact. On top of that, we can even implement the insights we gained from our A/B testing strategy, research, and implementation to our custom product pages to ensure they have the biggest impact. And this is just another reason why we can be a little more efficient if our ASO and ASA teams are working together. Okay, so we've talked about how we're going to increase our visibility and how we're going to increase our conversion rate through ASA and ASO. Now let's discuss review optimization, which can not only impact our visibility and conversion, it can also impact our ASA and ASO campaigns. So why are reviews important? Reviews can be important from a visibility perspective because, for example, on Google Play, if you have a review score below 2.0, you're not going to get any category rankings, and that can have a huge impact on your maximum visibility. Now, on iOS, that rule doesn't exist, and I promise this is the last time I'm going to say this, but our organic rankings are determined by our velocity of downloads and conversion rate. So if our reviews are going to be impacted by our conversion rate, they're going to impact our ASO and ASA campaigns. I've spoken with a lot of clients who's had their reviews go from a 4.0 to 3.9, and have seen a significant negative impact to their conversion rate. So something you really need to continue monitoring, because just a small decrease in your review score can have a huge impact on your conversion rate. We always recommend having a review score like around a 4.5 to ensure that your reviews aren't negatively impacting your conversion rate. So it's something that you're going to want to constantly monitor and refine. Now, here's a lot of things my clients don't realize about how you can use your reviews. You can also use your reviews for market research, right? Reviews are just things that your users are saying about your app, what they like about your app, what they don't like about your app. And so we always recommend conducting a review sentiment analysis. But what is that? Well, let's look at this case study. So we had our client SoundCloud, and we wanted to increase the conversion rate for one of their campaigns. So what we did is we analyzed their reviews, and we noticed a common theme being repeated over and over again. Users love SoundCloud because they got unlimited skips for the free version of their app, while their competitors didn't provide unlimited skips on the free version of their app. So what did we do? We took a look at this and we applied this to our ASA strategy. We made a custom product page that highlighted that our users get unlimited skips for free. And then what did we do with that custom product page? We targeted SoundCloud's competitors, and we saw 58% increase in conversion rate and 39% savings on ad spend. But review sentiment analyses don't just have to be used for ASA. You can also use it for ASO as well. So let's say you're looking at your reviews and you notice in your positive reviews, a feature or value proposition is being repeated over and over again by users. You can actually take that data and make a hypothesis about it, right? The hypothesis would be, if we emphasize this feature more prominently within the first 3 screenshots, we're going to see a bigger impact on our conversion rate. Because remember, on iOS, most of the downloads come from search results, and only the first 3 screenshots show up. So those will have the biggest impact on your conversion rate. So really don't be afraid to use your reviews in unique and different ways for both your paid and organic strategies. Now, as I already highlighted, our reviews are going to impact our conversion rate. So we're going to want to monitor our reviews closely to ensure we can identify any issues before they become real problems. As you can imagine, how many negative reviews we're going to get if our app stops working during the NBA playoffs, for example. We're probably going to want to put an emphasis on monitoring reviews right after a big app or product update, so we can make sure we can identify any priority bugs that need to be fixed. But we also want to take a holistic view on our reviews, but not just our reviews, but our competitor reviews. So let's just say we look at our competitors' reviews, and we notice that in all their positive reviews, users say they love their app because of a specific feature. And let's just say our app doesn't have that feature. And then our negative reviews, we notice a lot of users are complaining about that missing feature. What we can do is we can take that data, we can meet with our product team, and we can make adding that update or feature a priority to our roadmap. So that's something that you can also use reviews for, to help you refine your app and keep ensuring that you're giving users the best experience possible. But obviously, we're going to want to reply to reviews. Now, whenever we apply to a negative review, we all know that the goal is to take that negative review and turn it into a positive review. But we all know that doesn't happen a lot of the time, or even most of the time. But we're also applying to a negative review, not for the user who left it, but also for that new future user. If a new potential user comes to our page and they look at our reviews, even if they are negative, if they see that we continually and constantly reply to our reviews, it shows not that we just only care about our app, but we also care about our users, and that user may be more likely to download our app, which can obviously impact our conversion rate. So when possible, try to reply to as many reviews as possible. Okay, so last but not least, let's go over in-app events. So why are in-app events important? In-app events have been getting more and more visibility within the App Store as of recently, from what I've seen. You can use in-app events to attract new users, keep current users informed, or bring back lapsed users. Now, for our app and a lot of apps, you're probably going to have a lot of in-app events running at the same time throughout most of the year, right? For our app specifically, it's going to be because of all the sporting events that we're going to want to promote. What a lot of my clients don't realize is that sometimes your in-app events, depending on how you set them up, can show up in the search results for generic terms for new users. Now, if our in-app events are going to show up in the search results, they're going to impact our conversion rate. Because remember, most downloads on iOS come from the search results. And if we have multiple in-app events running at the same time, we're going to want to make sure that the in-app event we designate as a priority will be the one that will resonate with not just current users, but new users as well. And honestly, we're probably going to want to do a couple of pre and post impact analyses to see what has a better impact on our conversion rate. does our conversion rate improve when we have in-app events show up in the search results, or when we have screenshots show up in the search results? Now, for our apps, right, our app included, we just don't want to get downloads. We want users to sign up, pay a subscription, make a purchase, whatever it is. We want them to stay engaged with our app. Downloads are really just the first step. And now in-app events can help us do that. It helps keep current users engaged because we can continually highlight to them the various sporting events we're going to have streaming, throughout the year within our app. They can also bring back lapsed users by showing them what they may be missing out on, what sporting event they may be missing out on if they don't re-engage within our app. And last but not least, you can actually use in-app events for kind of like a brand defense campaign. If a user has your app downloaded and they search for a generic term and you don't have an in-app event, your app will look like ESPN does. No creatives, just metadata, not very attention grabbing, and a user may be a lot more likely to download a competitor's app instead of your app. But if a user does have your app installed and you do have an in-app event live, your app will look like CBS's app to the right. You can see that creative takes up the majority of the real estate. It's a lot more attention grabbing, and a user may be more likely to reopen your app instead of moving to a competitor. Now, market research, I've gone over that a couple times. So the same methodologies we use for our creative and metadata market research, we can apply for in-app events. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but there is an extra layer of strategy you want to look into, you want to take into consideration for in-app events. In-app events can impact how, where, and when you get featured. So what we're going to want to do is study our competitors' in-app events to see if we can correlate their in-app events for any time they got featured. Because there may be, we may be able to identify niche sporting events, just niche events in general, we may not have emphasized or spent resources on because we didn't think Apple was important. But if our competitor got a featuring based on that, then we may, if a competitor got a featuring based on that, then we may want to implement a similar in-app event so we can get similar results. So we're just going to want to make sure that we look at our competitors' in-app events for all the seasonal events they ran and see what led them to get featured so we can ensure we're really maximizing our visibility within the App Store, because getting featured can have a huge impact on that. Seasonal opportunities, I've gone over this a couple times already, but just like with our screenshots and metadata, we just want to make sure that how and when we're implementing our in-app events will have the biggest impact on our app. So we can leverage the same data we used for our other seasonality research to really understand user behavior, understand when these events start to increase and decrease in popularity. This will allow us to make sure we implement our in-app events right before they become popular, so they can have the biggest impact on our app and we can be as effective and efficient as possible. Now, I've gone over a lot with you today, and if there's one thing I hope you take away from my presentation is that your ASO and ASA team should at least be communicating a little bit. So I hope I've shared with you enough data and research to justify why that should happen. But if I haven't, I think this image will really emphasize that point further. So if you remember, at the beginning of my presentation, I highlighted the great results that Max saw when they implemented an ASO and ASA campaign together and how they outperformed a direct competitor for March Madness related keywords. What happens if you don't implement any strategy at all? Well, you're going to look like the app to the right. And that's Apple's new Sports Scores app. They were unranked for pretty much every March Madness related term I could think of. And I did this research right during the peak of March Madness. And this is a very relevant term for them, right? Because of all of us, or maybe it's just me, constantly checking March Madness scores to kind of see when our bracket is going to get busted so we can just kind of accept that fate. And if there's any app that should rank for relevant keywords by doing nothing, it's Apple, right? I mean, they're literally marketing on their platform. But if Apple can't rank for relevant keywords by doing nothing, then I hate to break it to everyone, we probably can't do it as well. So I'm not saying you have to implement everything I talked about here today, but at least have a strategy in place based on the right data, and at least don't have your ASO and ASA teams in completely separate silos. Have them communicating. There may be some low-hanging fruit that both teams can work on together. And there's really benefit to both, right? The ASO team can help the ASA team. The ASA team can help the ASO team. So even just some communication is better than none. Because there are a lot of opportunities you can take advantage of, and there may be a way that you can be a little more efficient, with your, with your strategy. So that's it. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Thank you for my app tweak team to respond to the ones while I was presenting to kind of get in the zone. Thank you for the compliment, everybody. We can send you the presentation after. I'm sure we'll have a way to send it out. I'll just make sure there are no more other questions, but that looks it. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.